Hello and welcome to ClapperCast. I'm your host as always, Carson Timar, and today I'm joined by the King of Fairbanks, Michael Fairbanks, to discuss the newest film coming from Pixar, Hoppers. This is a film that's had a lot of anticipation, even if Pixar maybe has been on a decline for a few years. This seems like their return to form. They put a big marketing effort into this film, and so far it seems like most people are enjoying it. Are we on the same bandwagon? Are we celebrating this as the return to Pixar? Or are we going to head to the theater and be disappointed and possibly think that this is one of their weaker entries? I won't spoil for you what we think, but I hope you enjoy our episode. I hope you enjoy our discussion. I think it's a fun little discussion on Pixar's Hoppers and the state of Pixar overall as a brand. With that said, again, thank you so much for listening and watching. Now let's get to our review of Hoppers. Okay, Michael, hello. Thank you so much for joining us today to talk about Hoppers, the new Pixar film. So excited. There's no rabbits in this. I don't know why you're jumping. There's not a single rabbit. This is a beaver movie that for some reason is called Hoppers. Don't get me started on it. Pixar, while I think you can debate some of the quality of their recent works, certainly has been a studio that since, let's say the pandemic, has really struggled to remain in the cultural consciousness. Especially as animation rises, you get Spider-Verse, you have K-pop Demon Hunters, animation as a whole, I think is reaching new heights, and Pixar and Disney in general have just really struggled to keep up. So interested with Hoppers, they've clearly put a lot of marketing in this, really banking on this to be their return. So I'm excited to get into the idea of, does this meet that expectation? Does it not? First, you're the guest today. I'll turn it over to you. What are your opening thoughts on Pixar's Hoppers?
I think that it addresses a lot of complaints that I've recently had with entertainment for kids that I think is largely either chronically online, like GOAT, for example, which halfway through just becomes about phones and social media, and I'm like, please, we don't need more of this for the kids. Or brain dead stuff like Sonic, which is just, or even Mario, even though I like Mario a little bit better, which is just loud screaming and colors and look, you recognize this and this. So I'm really glad that we have a new kids movie that has a nice message and the characters speak in complete sentences and articulate emotions that are really sincere. I like that it's about how kind of the power of protest and how those things can create better things for our world and for our environment and everything like that. I think it's very zippy and fun and occasionally funny. And it had no emotional impact on me whatsoever. I was like, this is a great movie for 9-year-olds. I'm sure that if I had a 9-year-old, I would be like, yeah, let's watch this instead of go put the phone down. This movie had a little bit of phone, but it was phone, I think, in a more organic way with the animals talking through the phone to talk to John Hamm, the mayor. But
you just meant it had a phone in it. Not even that it really had a statement on phone. It's just there are phones in some scenes.
It was more I'm sorry to be so fixated on this, but GOAT really drove me up the wall because half of GOAT was about posting. And oh, he posted a diss track. Oh, GOAT is blowing up on social media. Because this is just all kids know. This is just all kids' life experience is just being on their phone. So I really liked that this had more moderate phone and was actually, about something of substance. That was really nice.
No one show Michael the all the movies that are screen life where they take place only on a phone. Don't show those to him. He would not handle it well.
But those are for adults. We're gone. We need to save the children. I like searching and missing and all of those. Those are fine. I just with this kind of stuff, I'm just please, we need to show the kids the world around us. And this showed the kids the animals. It showed, that they didn't like what the mayor was doing, building that highway. They had to stop him. All good things, all good themes. Thumbs up. Marginal thumbs up. Not nearly at the heights of other Pixar movies, though. I was definitely sitting there being this would have been a great DreamWorks movie circa 2006, sort of over the hedge Madagascar era. It really fits nicely in that niche, and I think as that. I think a lot of the time when I review kids movies, people are kind of like, get over yourself. Kids just need something entertaining and fun, and I have bigger issues. And this is one time where I'm like, yeah, sure, have it. And then, I think the Disney adults in my theater were having a great time. I had one guy who seemed to be experiencing a movie for the very first time. The Disney sparkle came up in the logo and he went, "Oh shit." And he was like really loudly reacting every time an animal did something crazy. He was like, "Oh my god. Oh my god." Like for that, yeah, man. Sure, hop away.
Sometimes I wonder, like, if you had a movie like this when you were a kid, like, it might inspire you to know some basic things about nature and stuff. Like, it really could have opened your eyes to the world, but alas, you didn't have it, but at least the kids today have this. Yeah, I feel very similar to you. It's like fine, like not to be boring. I wish I could be on here screaming. I think some of the politics are interesting and how to get into that, but like for a Pixar film, and I'm actually someone who I will defend. I think some of their best work have come over the last few years with like Luca and Elemental, and plus, I mean, their catalog is fantastic. It was fine. The jokes were probably the weakest part for me, where like wasn't really that funny. I was seeing a lot of people in the reaction be like, "Oh my god, this is absurdist comedy. It's so funny. It's the greatest comedy of the year." I also am a big fan of We Bare Bears, and this is the same director as that. So I was like, "Oh great, maybe the comedy is really going to land." Like I think We Bare Bears is very funny. Not necessarily there for me. There's like an extended sequence of the animals doing like yoga, and everyone in my theater was like really chuckling, and I was just kind of there like, okay, like it's not bad, but it's definitely not for me as an adult. I'm so sorry, everybody. And then yeah, the messaging is innocent. It's clear. It's clean. I like that it has a message of like respecting nature and finding the beauty in nature at a time where I think a lot of kids don't know the beauty of nature. I thought it was well conceived, well done. It made me want to go camping. It like really made me want to go to the zoo or go camping, just be in nature. I would say I didn't love some of the animation design, specifically the character design in this, like, look at how gorgeous nature is. I do think sometimes it gets a little undercut when it's like a really silly, like, beaver that then pops up out of like the photorealistic pond. I'm like, well, I don't know if that's really capturing the beauty of nature for me there. But it's okay. And I think the politics, and I'd love to get into this political messaging, because I think it's interesting. We're like, rather than being super bold or being super like you right and wrong, this has a very much more like centrist take of like, we're all in this together, even the people you disagree with, even if they're doing things politically or in the world that hurt you or disagree with you. Like there are times where you need to come together and work together and have like truly collective activism with people from both sides of the aisle, which I think is fine. There are times where I'm like a little bit like, this mayor still is not like an innocent character, so I'm not really sure like what we're supposed to view as a protagonist there. And I think as a result, the story gets messy. Specifically, the third like the final action sequence in this, I was a little like lost, to be honest. I was like, I don't really know what I'm even like supposed to root for is happening. There's like so many layers of like, well, we need to do this because this is the more pressing enemy, but then the mayor is also doing this, so we have to fight him. And it was like, I like everyone is working together. I don't know what the actual like goal of this segment is. I don't know where on the adventure we're supposed to be like, this is our plan moving forward. But I thought it was an effective message. I think like for being it's a message that I guess in social media in the world, we don't get a lot of messages about like working together and the fact that we're all in this together. So like I appreciate it. It's not overly high concept, but like I thought it was unique.
I think it was interesting that they made John Hamm's character, the mayor, more of like a Gavin Newsom type. Like to me, it wasn't like Republican. It was more corporate Democrat. He was so Gavin Newsom coded that I was like, this is on purpose. We're thinking ahead a few years here to where this archetype becomes a little bit more important. Wink. But the I so like when you say it's centrist, I don't know if I would necessarily say. I even think maybe they could have taken it further, where the guy was like really a terrible guy and then had a change of consciousness. Like the John Hamm character is not necessarily a good guy, but I think he is more kind of smug and worried about getting reelected than he is just like a terrible evil villain.
He's destroying nature, though. He's lying and destroying the pond.
He's that every politician, both sides of the aisle. Nobody's supporting the environment in any capacity.
True that, brother. Speak
know?
on it. Speak on it louder.
Like, I don't know what to say. I'm just saying, like, he's not Trump. You know, he's not Greg Abbott. You know what I mean? Like, but
we don't know his extent and policies. He also could be. We don't know, right? But fair enough.
We don't know, but like this like non-white child was opposing him and he wasn't yelling slurs at her or trying to get her deported. So like that's a plus, I would say, in his corner. For to address a couple of your other points, I thought that
no ice in Beaverville. Get ice out of Beaverville.
Right, exactly. In terms of like the beauty of nature stuff, to me, it felt like someone watched The Wild Robot and was like, this is too sad. This is making me feel too many things. I'm a little uncomfortable with all this crying and blah, 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 but I want to watch this again. So let's make a little happy version. And the character designs, the thing that I thought was the most interesting about that was that they changed when we were in the Hopper body. When you're the human, like especially the beavers, they had like the little black beady eyes to go along with like their lack of vocal expression. And then when I don't know why they grew eyes when we were in the animal perspective. I thought that was a little odd. I feel like they could have just looked the same throughout the whole thing. I don't know how you felt about that. But that's how I felt about that.
Did you know you could be listening to this episode of ClapperCast early? Well, if you go to our Patreon page, patreon.com/ClapperCastPodcast, there are 3 different tiers that you can choose from, each with their own means of support and each with their own means of rewards. You can get access to early episodes, bonus monthly episodes, bonus reviews. You can see our schedule early. Of course, thank you everyone who's already joined us on Patreon, and we hope to see you over there soon. Yeah, I mean, I would agree. I think inconsistent design. It's not that it's necessarily new for like when you take on like the body of the animal that it changes and stuff. But I agree. I just like I thought the character design just like it felt very cartoonish in a movie that like because it's modern Pixar. And granted, apparently they're having one in a really unique style either next year or the year after. So fair enough. But like I just think I'm over. Yeah, I just think I'm over like. And I guess for this, when it's nature, like it's good that it's photorealistic, but like if you're going to be stylized in any way, just be stylized. Or if you're going to be realistic, be realistic. I don't know. I feel like in a time where, again, animation is booming, we have so many unique films and unique styles on display. Granted, you're starting to get kind of formulaic with like the GOAT formula, which is the same as the Spider-Verse formula. But like, I just think there's nothing here like visually that I found super impactful. I wish they would have chosen a more consistent style, I guess. Though also like, I don't know, I guess there are some really like cartoony ideas like the giant shark and stuff. So like, fair enough. You don't want like a realistic Jaws coming to eat you, but like, I don't know. I just wish it was more consistent, especially if the entire purpose is like, hey, we're going to stop and breathe and we're going to put you into nature. I don't know. It didn't really feel super consistent for me. I will say, I think for Pixar and Disney, while I agree this is like innocent, I do think story-wise here, and there's a lot here. I mean, again, it gets very chaotic. It's very messy. You have an evil caterpillar. You have the whole like animal kingdom with the different realms and the apex predator. It does feel to me, and this is something that I felt with a lot of Disney projects recently, where it's like, it's really, and I guess the clearest way I can put this is I'm not even a K-pop Demon Hunter stan like you are, but like to watch this movie and what it accomplishes narratively, character-wise, character development, dialogue, just like some of the fundamental core bits of like filmmaking. And then to put it into conversation with like K-pop Demon Hunters, it's kind of embarrassing. Like Disney is one of the biggest studios in the world, especially when it comes to animation. I feel like it's weird that there's like really no excuse, in my opinion, that we are getting films that are structurally made like this or made like Elio, where like Elio, for example, is like it's swinging for the fences with like this big idea, looking at like feeling alone, putting in context with the conversation of like our desire to find aliens and our desire for space exploration. But like it just feels like these films like fundamentally are just not well built. Even this one, where you're jumping between all these characters, but like I think the ending is really unsatisfying. Light spoilers, but like the fact that you don't get another conversation between her and that beaver is crazy to me. With her like being able to understand him, like what are we doing here? For me, it feels like Disney takes an approach where they will be like, what is this movie about? Okay, our themes here are working together, collective activism, and nature. And then it's like, okay, well, here's the big emotional moments we want to hit with that. Then let's work backwards to then figure out like, what is the actual plot? What's the actual narrative? It just feels really like, again, whether you want to compare it to earlier Pixar films or K-pop Demon Hunters or so many animated movies, it does feel a little bit like, how is it not better than it is? I definitely get that emotion watching modern Disney and Pixar at times.
Well, I think they're kind of reverse engineering their movies, like you said, where it seems like when you read up on Pixar, they're having this process where the creators come in really hot with their messaging and the things that they want to say, and then the powers that be kind of go like, all right, that's cute and all, but how can we kind of sand this down to where everybody can relate to it and nobody's uncomfortable? And that's sort of been the ethos of Disney since Bob Iger took over again. And I feel like you can feel that in this movie, but it's sort of, like it's a pleasant mediocrity. Like when you were like, it's not excusable that it's this media. I don't know. Like when I was growing up back in the day, we got plenty of these like mediocre movies that are just like fine. I think there's a place for movies that aren't great, but don't talk down to kids either, and just kind of give them a fun time. I don't think every movie has to be like a Wild Robot where they're coming out of the theater crying, having had this like transcendent emotional experience, or even like a K-pop that feels really innovative. Like, I don't know, like little animals. And they go, wow. Yeah, and that's what the people want. The people want the animals, they want them yelling and doing their little stuff, and they win at the end.
People do yearn for the beavers. That's fair. I agree I agree overall in the terms of like cinema, but like for a studio of this size, with this budget, with this ability and like skilled people working for it, like I don't know. Again, I feel totally innocent towards this film. I have no hate in my heart for Hoppers. I like would overall give this a thumbs up really clearly. I think it's like very middle of the road, but leans innocent absolutely. But like I don't know. I do think it's kind of like in the context of who is behind this, the amount of resources. They've been like advertising this for literally years since Elio. I do think it's kind of inexcusable. I don't know. Like, I agree overall. I don't mind the fact that not every film is revolutionary and is this transcendent experience. I don't need everyone walking out of Wild Robot bored like I was, because that film is not that good. But like, it just feels to me like this should have been more consistent. Even if you just want to talk about like the humor, or you just want to talk about like narrative structure. They also have like this random dead grandma who like really is there in the beginning, and then you never really like, she's not really relevant to the entire rest of the movie, but then like randomly there will be flashbacks here and there where you're like, okay, I guess.
Oh my God. The whole time I was sitting there like, I get it. She died. Yeah. Holy God. Well, the second the grandma shows up and she's like, we're always going to be together.
Yeah.
She's done.
Well, you knew she was done.
Yeah. But like the fact that like anytime Mabel, is that the main character?
Yes.
Mabel was sad. It cut back to grandma. Remember when we were happy at the... Oh God. The creek. What was this is where they said what the lake or the creek was about 1,000 times, and now of course I don't remember what it is. You know what I'm talking about. Don't leave me hanging. The place,
you got it. You got it.
sanctuary where they
The
were
glade.
the glade, the
Come
glade. That's
on.
what I was like. What is the word? They said it about 1,000 times. No, so like every time they cut back, it was just every time there was an emotional moment, it was like, oh, remember when we were happy with grandma?
But like that wasn't even like really like yes, Mabel feels this way, and yes, I get it's sad and whatever, and okay, what like fair enough. But like a lot of her emotions and the dialogue around like the glade and why she doesn't want to lose it isn't really like even like, oh, I have this really deep person, like I can't lose the glade because I'm losing grandma. Then that's like the natural. Okay, that's the character motivation. That's what we're gonna do. That's what we're working with. Hopper's like does not use that. They're like, oh, it's okay. Like she remembers sitting on that big rock with her grandma, which does look really uncomfortable. I cannot believe that as her grandma's sitting there dying, she still like was wheeling her out and throwing her on this big rock. Just put some chairs next to it, please. Crazy. Yeah, there's also like this weird thing with her beaver friend where he's like, I was kicked out of my kingdom and blah blah blah. That really doesn't go anywhere. I thought there was going to be like some twist or reveal with that. Not really. You get this whole like pond rules where you can eat each other, but that never comes back. It just feels like there's not a lot of like through line. It feels like there's just not a lot here that like sets up in Act 1, pays off in Act 3. It feels just very like on the move always in a way that like feels very amateur, and it's like innocent, but it does feel amateur in structure.
I think the pond rules thing did come back, but less about the eating each other and more the like, we all care about each other here. And that's why they looked at the camera a couple times and went, pond rules, because, the kids might be on their phones in the future watching this. So you got to say pond rules about 10 different times so they'll get it. Also, case in point with grandma, kids might miss that the grandma died if they were on the phone.
That's true.
Because the movie didn't have social media and the phones every 2 seconds on screen. I think as far as like you saying, like this kind of feels like an NPC Pixar movie, for lack of a better word, I would say it's like better than Onward or Lightyear, which were like truly really about nothing.
I don't know why you're saying Onward, which is the most underrated Pixar film. And
you're kidding me.
Are you kidding?
You don't like the Wild Robot, but you like Onward?
God, Wild Robot's dumb. It's just
out
like
of your mind.
Onward is this gorgeous, amazing portrait of like dealing with grief, and it's so mature at the end. It's so fun. Onward is 5 stars. Absolutely one of my favorites, but we'll get there in a little bit. Can't believe you would use that. There's also on Pixar, there's so many we can talk about. Good Dinosaur, basically all the sequels they've ever made. Lightyear.
Did I say Lightyear? I meant to say
that's
Lightyear.
A good one. Yeah.
No, I'm saying before did I say Lightyear?
You did.
Okay. Yeah.
I believe you said Lightyear. I don't know. I got triggered by
Lightyear.
So everything else kind of left, but.
Well, it's okay. You probably got COVID early on in the pandemic.
I've never had COVID. I've literally never had COVID. Isn't that interesting that I've never had COVID and everyone else has these strange opinions? It's almost like everyone else has COVID brain and I'm the only one.
I've never had it either. Now we're about to get it because I know. I didn't see Elio, so I don't have an opinion.
It's fine. This was very
gay rights, but I didn't see Elio.
No, actually, they cut the gay part, so
I saw that. That was like what Pete Docter had to say about that one. He was like, movies aren't a therapy session. I'm like, okay, God. Pixar.
I will say it's so fucking annoying, the conversation around Hoppers, because there is a segment of the fan base, obviously, who is like, this is the first movie without explicitly queer themes since like they were good, and like see, now it's doing good box office, when it's like, no, the lesson here is that Pixar just put out like good marketing for the film and actually told people it was coming out. It is not a reflection of the fact that it's like unwoke. It's not even like an unwoke film. I'd say it's pretty explicitly woke. I will say that's horrible, that the worst people are getting that narrative from this, but fair enough.
And also Mabel was giving queer youth, but that's another story.
Definitely fully agreed. You can read that if you read her absolutely as queer. There's also definitely like rainbows in the background and stuff. Like it's just not a true take, but that is what people are rolling with. Fair enough.
I mean, like I said, I think it's just because ultimately people only really care about woke or get mad about it when it hits like one of their buzzwords or one of their like bad things that they, this was about animals screaming and saving the glade. The environment to most people doesn't read as woke. That's just the politicians who are trying to pit people against each other who think that. So like, that's what I have to say about that. There were people mostly are mad about gay and trans stuff, and there was nothing like that in here. So that I think that really is the bottom line
No
of that
trans
scenario.
beavers.
No trans I guess she transitioned into a beaver.
Makes you think. Really makes you think. Is this furry propaganda? Just saying.
I mean, yeah.
Shout out the pit.
Oh my god, we just watched that episode 5 minutes before I came on here. I kid you not, and I literally was like, "We don't need to be an ally to everybody." I'm not gonna not to go on a whole tangent about the pit, but there are certain patients on the pit that I'm like really leaning forward and watching, and then there are others where, much like the kids watching Hoppers, I go on my phone. And as soon as I saw there was a furry, I was just like, "Let me know when this is over."
I will say this is actually, I've learned Hoppers is written by the same guy who did Me and Earl and the Dying Girl, which adds up. I felt very similar to where it was like fine. Also same writer as Luca, which is shocking, but there was at least another co-writer on there. So I think the good parts of Luca probably came from, what's his name, Mike Jones. This feels very Jesse Andrews. I'll give you that.
Yeah, I mean, I would say both of those other movies are way more emotional than Hoppers.
Sure.
Also, I guess someone died in Hoppers, like in Me, Earl, and the Dying Girl. We don't know what the grandma died of. Maybe that was cancer. Bringing that theme back.
Ooh, you don't think? Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I think probably closing it out. Like, I think Hoppers is innocent. It's fine. Go take your kids to it. I, as an adult, and I think this is okay. I think some people like might even be offended by me saying this. Like, as an adult, I don't think there's a lot here for you. Like, I think you can probably go have a fine time with your kids, but I don't think an adult has to go see this. Granted, at least according to you, so an adult in your theater was loving the film, so fair enough. Yeah, I don't know. It's pretty fine for Pixar.
Yeah, we had an audience of all adults because it was a Thursday night, and the Disney adults, they had a great little time. I think at this point, adults like Disney more than kids like it. That's my truth. The adults are trying to kind of pass it on to their kids like our parents did for us, and the kids are like, ugh, where's GOAT? Why aren't they on their phones more? Show me more phones.
I didn't know you had I don't get to see hatred of GOAT in the phone.
The thing is, I like GOAT about as much as I like this by just like a hair. I like this a hair more, mostly because it's not all about social media. But I think they're about equal, like in terms of quality. But I think the kids are more into something that like is about what they're posting about. Like, I really hate to dilute it down to that, but like even K-pop Demon Hunters, they're like, oh, I recognize that from my phone. Like, if it's not recognizable from the phones, it's not really happening, I think, for them.
True. I two notes. Number one, because I forgot to say this, I think them putting the lizard character as like the main character from this is stupid. He's barely in the movie. What a scam that is. If anyone was like, oh my god, I can't wait to see all the lizard scenes, he's barely in this. Don't expect.
He was funny. He went,
he was fine. He did that, and he was on the phone.
Kids are gonna love that.
Not to trigger you, he had the phone moment where he typed lizard. I'll give you that.
Yeah, no, exactly. No, but that's why he's gonna be so memorable to the kids, is because he was on the phones.
Number two, all the adults out there, don't even bother seeing this, because we all know the real adult menu comes out this summer with Paw Patrol 3, the Dino movie. So stay tuned, everyone. Like, we have animated films for us mature adults coming soon. So just hold on.
What is the psychosis with Paw Patrol with you and Paul? What is it? I don't
it's not my most anticipated movie of the year. It's number two.
I've never watched it because I'm not 4. What is it?
I've never seen the show. What are you talking about?
The movies, the Paw Patrol. What is the deal? It's you and Paul. You both love Paw Patrol. But why?
Michael, I'll answer your question. First, I'll say this, and this might like really character assassinate me. I would so in a heart, like, wouldn't even think about trading the Odyssey in, never seeing the Odyssey again if I could see Paw Patrol 3. If it was like pick one of them, Paw Patrol 3 is so above like even the Odyssey. They're just amazing movies. You have to see it. The first one I sobbed during because it was so powerful. It's so good. I literally was sitting there on my couch because it was a dual release, sobbing. And then the second one, it's not as good, but it still is pretty incredible. They're just
I
like
just don't
incredibly
believe
effective.
you.
They're incredibly effective emotional arcs. You really like, it's incredible. You have to watch them.
I don't believe you at all.
I'll give minor spoilers. Chase, the main dog, the main police dog, in the first one has like a fear and is like, I can't. No, stop. A cab except Chase. He has a fear, and he like has this inward fear that he's not good enough because he was hurt as a puppy. And then the final scene in the movie, the climax, his little boyfriend, I forget his name, is trapped on the other side of this burning like a building, and it's
he has
like
a boyfriend.
Opened up. No, it's just a boy who is their friend, and then the rest are dogs. This is a human boy.
Nature will say they were friends. History will say they were friends.
No, and well, literally, and then Chase sits there. But funny you say that. If anyone is curious, the Paw Patrol dog sexuality, our first podcast episode where we reviewed the first one, that was a major talking point. But Chase then is like, I have to save this boy, but I can't because of my inner fears. And he hears all of like the hatred he's got and all the doubts he has, but then he like braves through it and jumps over the burning building and saves his owner. And cut to me on the couch crying like a baby. I've only saw probably like, I literally think 4 movies probably ever. One was Paw Patrol. One was Elemental, which I sobbed in. One was Project Hail Mary, coming soon. I cried twice. Yeah, it's good movies. See, all mostly equally good movies.
If I sit down and watch Paw Patrol and it is some bullshit, as I guarantee it is, you're going to hear from me. I'm sure you and Paul will strap me down before the Dino movie, be like, watch this, bro.
I will accept if you don't like the second one. The second one is great, but it's not
a lesser sequel.
It is a little lesser, I'll admit, but I can't wait for the dinosaurs fun. Though also we don't need to get into the Paw Patrol. Everyone also focuses on like a different dog as like the main dog with the emotional journey. I just don't really care about the dog that was the second one. And then I think this new one's about Marshall, which I don't really care about. Where's our Rocky movie? That's the question. Rocky is my favorite. It's also Paul's favorite. Give us the Rocky movie, but Chase is a good one.
Prayers up for all characters named Rocky, apparently.
That's true. My God, we'll get there. We'll get there in a couple weeks. With that, for our question of the week, tying into our conversation we've had, I was curious, what is our favorite Pixar films for the studio that has some bangers? Which ones stick out to us the most? Michael, what Pixar films do you like?
I know this is a generic answer, but really my 2 favorites are the 2 Brad Bird ones, The Incredibles and Ratatouille. I think I was also just a perfect age at that point to really dive into them and love them, but I just think they're so vibrant and so sumptuous and emotional. And I just think there are a lot of Pixar movies where I think they're great, but they're not as great as some people say. And those 2 I think are just kind of perfect all the way through.
Did you like Incredibles 2?
It was good. As an epileptic, the villain was a little much.
It was a little targeted. Fair.
I literally haven't rewatched it purely because I might die if I do. I liked Incredibles 2. I think it got the job done. I actually saw them in a double feature together. And I'm curious about 3 since Bird isn't directing, but I know it's the guy who did Elemental, so I think it'll probably work out.
Yeah, Incredibles 3. They just announced this week a bunch of sequels. So if anyone like is missing some of these classic, like, oh, I miss Monsters Inc., there's a new one coming.
They're also doing Coco 2, which is really perplexing to me considering that she's dead, much like every Pixar grandma, evidently. But like, what, who, why, where, how?
Gotta get ready for
that. And I love Coco. That's one of their best ones, I think.
Sure. Got to get ready for that new Coco Land, right? We got to get the kids back on Coco. So it is weird. So. It was really freaking me out in the theater.
Is that true?
Yeah, they're building it. At least an attraction. I don't know if it's a full land over in Florida. I was thinking it's like was kind of wilding me out when I was leaving this film, and I was like, there's a lot of parents here of like young kids who are like 2 to 3 years old. They like didn't watch like Encanto as like a parent. Like this is like a new experience. Their vocabulary of Pixar as a parent is like just starting, which I don't know why, but like that time really freaked me out where I was like, oh my God, your kid wasn't alive for like Coco. That's so strange to me. But
I also think it's crazy that Encanto registered more than Soul, Luca, and Turning Red, which I all think are better.
Well,
Um,
yeah. You are
that like
correct.
that little niche of that little run from Pixar recently, I was like, damn, the magic's back. And
No,
then
kind of generational, yeah.
Lightyear, they were like, bullshit, here it comes.
It got rough there for a second. My favorites are definitely I love Monsters Inc. I love Finding Dory. I love Luca. I love Onward. I love Elemental.
Did you mean to say
Again,
Finding Dory?
Finding Nemo. Did I say Finding
Yeah,
Dory?
you did.
Well, I do like Finding Dory, but I do mean Finding Nemo. Thank you for catching that. Finding Dory is like fine, definitely like two steps behind, but those are all good. Elemental, I love. I just like really think people are like so sleeping on that film. What a beautiful love story. One of the best, genuinely, like I think love stories of the last like 10 years in film. The scene where they like for the first time can physically embrace. I lost it. I was so moved by the power of that scene. So good on Pixar releasing some good stuff. With that, Michael, I think that's going to do it today. Anything left about Hoppers, about Pixar, anything that you want to talk about before we wrap up?
Take your kids to Hoppers. They'll go, that was good.
Well, they might go, where's the phones? And then you can do Go as a double feature.
Well, they're going to go, that was good, and then pull out their phone and look at. I don't know what the fuck is on YouTube now. God knows whatever brain rot.
They'll turn on Miss Rachel, and then we take that phone away, and we say, no, we don't do that here.
Miss Rachel and Skibbity Toilet and all that.
Isn't Michael Bay creating a Skibbity Toilet movie?
You're goddamn right he is. Rumored to be. He denied it, but I'm going to be sat. Literally and figuratively sat on the Skibbity Toilet if that is true.
I'm not going to the AFI Fest premiere with you. You have to go alone to that. I'm so sorry. I will
The
not
concept
be
of that
attending.
premiering at AFI, I wish.
I mean, Bird Box did. I mean, I don't think they have
That's true.
that high of standards, but maybe. Yeah. So with that, I think that's going to do it for us today. Michael, where can we find your work and your voice online if we want more Michael?
I am writing for Real, Merry-Go-Round Magazine, and Film Obsessive. King of Burbank on TikTok and Instagram. I'm going to be headed to South by Southwest next week, and you can see all of my coverage of some big releases and some random shit I've never heard of along with it. Very excited to head over there.
That's wonderful. And you can find Clapper on Twitter at ClapperPodcast. You can find both an audio version of this on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you find your podcast, and also a YouTube version if you want the video of our beautiful faces doing this. We had some great episodes recently. We just did our episode on Cavalcade, continuing our Best Picture Rewind series. Myself and Nicola Grosso have an episode coming very soon where we talk about Jean-Luc Godard, specifically Verve à Vie, I believe it's titled, his third film. Fantastic film. Would recommend. And then also The Great Ziegfeld. Again, every month we do another Best Picture Rewind episode. And this time, for some reason, I chose The Great Ziegfeld, which is maybe one of the worst Best Picture winners ever. So can't wait to discuss that for 2 hours. With that, thank you so much for listening and watching. Goodbye.